Good evening and thank you for joining us in this edition of WTV News. My name is Wairi Mombogwa. Let's take a look at the stories making headlines. Reducing poverty levels, we look at exploring alternative economic activities. A woman is arrested for disguising herself as a man at a football stadium in Saudi Arabia. Moving on, half of Kenyans are languishing in poverty, according to a report released by the Kenya Institute for Public Policy Analysis. The number has risen, with counties like Turkana and Samburu having poverty levels above 70%. Nevertheless, the president has urged millers to lower prices of flour to make them affordable to Kenyans. Irene Galgalo has more.
Kenya's urban slums are expanding at an alarming rate, resulting in an increasing challenge in food security, health services, water and sanitation. In Nairobi, slums occupy less than 6% of Nairobi's residential land, yet are home to 60% of the city's population. The situation in the country worsens, with Turkana County named as the poorest in the country, with 9 out of 10 people surviving on under $1 a day. Economic expert Kareithi Moremi explains the reasons for such situations.
Now, the real reasons which have contributed to what we are reading is mainly 3 items. The first is the whole decline of tourism. Within the last 12 months, tourism has suffered heavily. And when tourism suffers, of course, hotels close. When hotels close, basic buying goes down. So a bit of the tourism employee population has ended up going into the poverty part. If you look at the poverty indices, the Western Kenya, the Nyanza, that area, a bit of their counties will have increased their poverty numbers. And that's because the activities which go into sugar farming, again for the last 12 months, have suffered heavily. Because of insecurity, there are certain trade items like wholesaling, taking goods which have gone down, and that of course has its natural consequence. And the natural consequence is the likes of Turkana, the Garisas, the Pokots, what we call the communities on the north, enter the poverty curve very, very fast.
Half of Kenya's population is languishing in poverty, with Turkana, Samburu, Tana River, Marsabit and Kitui counties painted among those whose poverty levels have surpassed the 70% mark. According to the Kenya Economic Report 2014 findings released by the Kenya Institute for Public Policy Research and Analysis, KIPRA, an uncontrolled population increase in Kenya is also a contributing factor to the rise in poverty levels in the country.
We had gotten into a situation where our population was declining. But for the last 2 years, our absolute percentage of population has been going up to almost 4%. That increase from 3 to 4 earns a 1% in total terms, in terms of new numbers. And those new numbers, of course, measured against a constant figure, increases the absolute percentage of poverty.
The report states that about 21% of rural households use poor fecal disposal methods such as buckets and the bush, and this has contributed largely to the poverty levels in different parts of the country.
There is what we call ability to eat, which is the one which we use to measure the number we call absolute poor. Can you give yourself the calories needed for you to be alive? If the answer is you can't, we group you as absolutely poor. Then there's a number we call human index, the measure of the things that make a human being a human being. That's where health, education, sanitation, that's where they come in. So when you come to the Kibiras, the Madhares, the Mukurus, those type of places, the human index is the one which increases.
The country's economy is, however, salvageable, with a sharp focus on substitute methods of economic activities as an alternative to traditional forms of economic activities.
If your tea exports are going down, if your sugar is going down, what is it that the economy is telling you? The economy is telling you, you must discover other new economic activities, other than now the ordinary ones. So you'll be hearing things like the president concentrating on things like arts and sports. Now that's a whole virgin area which the government structures have not yet heard the message in terms of increasing the industry called art, the movies, the films, that, so that you bring in another new GDP, because the traditional ones are going down.
The Kenya Economic Report highlighted a gap that needs to be filled, that of exploring alternative economic activities like fishing and investing in the arts. The government needs to explore such opportunities to ensure that poverty in the country is reduced.